I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
2016, year of the snake. It's time for a change in the White House, y'all. Bring it.
How's it going, Mark? It's good to see you. Yeah, how's it going, Allergic? We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the country. We're gonna talk about what you can do to help our president and our country. Everything. Let's see what we can do. I got some ideas, you guys. I know what we can do to help out. There's my Munkin. There's my diva. How's it going, Christina? How's it going? Hey, Gigi, did I say hi to you? How you doing? Oh, we're good to see you, my friend. I know. A lot of people are going to be fat. Somebody told me that. They said there's a lot of people going to have to be like 40 pounds heavier after the quarantine. I'm like, and some will be 40 pounds thinner. So they don't have food. So, it's just different experiences. Woo. So we can still laugh about it at the moment. So we're just going to let people come on into the room. If you are in the room, click the share button. Let folks know we are here. And we are live, and we're going to be talking about the issues. Well, there's only one issue right now. Everything's the country and the crisis. And for me, the only issue is how that's affecting the Constitution, the America that I know and know. So we'll talk a little bit about that too. Oh my God, Susan Handy. So far, it has not entirely vanished, although it was coughing a little earlier. I was hearing my Constitution cough a little earlier. It may have cut the virus. Make America great again. Make America great again. Make America great again. Again. Yeah, again. Gotta do it all over now. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. You're watching the one and only Trump Talk US live in DC with Suzzanne Monk. I am Suzzanne Monk. You are. We have Trump. We have Chris McDonald, the Munkin, representing Trump Talk US in the room. He's sharing links, so that's a good resource. He's greeting everybody. He's just my little. He's very helpful. Love the Munkin. Love on the Munkin. Marita, good to see you. Jenna, good to see you. Rebecca, good to see you. I want to thank my good friend Diane at the Trump Towel. Love my Trump Towel people. And of course, sendmeg.com. If you are in the New England, New York, Ohio, Ontario area, and you have any transportation delivery needs, you should send meg.com. She's actually still working right now. The whole craziness has made it somewhat a little hard for her to get in and out of places because some people are crazy now. We heard people are crazy, but we still love her. And so we're still telling you to use her because she is still a great service. Just because some people, panic and make you wait for 17 million hours and then you can't do your job. We love you. We love you, Meg. We love you guys. All right, Jenna, good to see you. Rebecca, good to see you. Everyone in the room, if I haven't said hello, good to see you. Let's get started on the show. I want to start first and foremost by talking about President Donald J. Trump. President Trump, love President Trump, always been a supporter of President Trump. I continue to support our president. I continue to support our president. There are some things over the last few days, we're going to talk about them in the show, that I have not agreed with as the administration is going forward. I believe the CDC is responsible for some pretty bad panic. We're going to parse that out. But I want everyone to understand, I want to start the show because I've been getting some questions. People get in my face. And they're like, Suzzanne, are you not supporting the president? Are you stepping off the Trump train? Are you got to support the president? I do. I support the president 100%. I support Donald J. Trump for president 2020, run the country, hopefully out of this crisis and on to something much better. Donald Trump, that's my guy. Okay. Here's what I want to do. I want to help our president. I want to help our president because there is a real problem. There is a real problem, and it's not what Chris picks. See, Chris, you are what we call a fear monger. We're going to put Chris up on the thing. Chris says, within a week, COVID-19 are going to explode. Trump is white, and he's going to make America first again. I don't even know what that means. But this is the kind of crazy fear-mongering. They want the president to fail. This is what is bringing the country to this screeching halt and causing so much economic devastation. We need to help the president by getting our country back on track. Okay? We need to get our country back on track. Right now, with the shutdowns around the country, the shutdowns that we're seeing across the board, on restaurants, on schools, on jobs, your workplace, everywhere, everyone is telecommuting all of a sudden. All of this is devastating our economy, and it's preventing us from continuing each and every day the work that we really should be doing, which is out here supporting the president. If we don't reelect Donald Trump, this world that we're experiencing, this chaos where there's no food at the grocery stores, we're all in lockdown. This is the socialism. This is the socialism. This is the collectivism that we see the left begging for. This is what the Democrats are. This is the Democrat platform. It's this chaos each and every day. Each and every day. So, we need to do what we can to help our president get back on track, get the country back on track, and get back to winning this election. Now, Marianne asks a good question because they have been asking, here's where the president and I are, we're not 100%, okay? And people, I understand that people want to get upset if you say anything that sounds even a little bit other than what the president is saying. But I believe, and I have evidence, we spent 2 hours, you guys. 2 hours last time. My voice is still sore. 2 hours with all the notes and everything. Right? And then talk about why flattening the curve is stupid. We should have just increased the hospital resources. Otherwise, we're just extending the disease. We talked all about that. Okay? That is not today's show. Today's show is about what we can do to fix the problem. All right? We have already stepped off the cliff into crazy, but we can get back to that. We can get back to reality. We can get back to work as quickly as possible. What we have seen across the country with the shutdown mania is a lot of the cities that have shut down the bars, that have shut down the restaurants, shut down gun sales, shut down alcohol sales. A lot of these are bluer cities, or already very, very liberal-leaning Republican governors, like Governor Hogan, who he's always the first rhino to jump right off the cliff with all the other asses. So that's certainly hello, Leslie, how's it going? So that's certainly Governor Hogan. But here's why I'm saying that There's a lot of states, Republican conservative district, conservative counties. People are doing great. They don't have any shutdowns. They don't have any curfews. Maybe the schools are closed, but there are a lot of things that aren't closed. And that's a great thing for you guys, but you need to call, there's an action point that you need to take. You need to call your elected official. And this is going to be so important. We all need to be doing this. I called about 10 different political officials. We need to call our political officials, the ones that have not shut things down or that are pushing back. For example, I talked with the office of Congressman Clay Higgins down in Louisiana yesterday. It was great to have somebody actually answer the phone in this era of telecommuting, but they were happy to take my phone call and my message, which is the shutdown is devastating. I appreciate so much him pushing back because he, gave the Louisiana governor an earful about the economic devastation that is being caused by the shutdown. So good. So good. So I called and let him know I support that. I support that 100%. I support that 100%. Please keep that up. Please get to the president. Let him know the shutdowns are not working and we need to get back to work as quickly as possible. And that needs to be the plan. Now, will the president hear that? I don't know. I think the CDC is telling him a lot of scary things. Probably the same stupid, scary things that my little trolls like to tell me. Frankly, I think what's happened is there are trolls talking to the president. Now, that doesn't mean I think the president in any way has any ill intention. I know that his intention with this bailout is good, but it's not conservative. It's not conservative, and it would be entirely unnecessary if we can just get the country turned back on. Nobody needs a bailout if we can just go back to work. If everyone can go back to work, then we don't need a bailout. If the restaurants can open back up, then we don't need a bailout. If the schools can open back up, then we don't need a bailout. If your job can open back up, we don't need a bailout. If people start going to events again, if people start taking travel again, if conventions start happening again, then we don't need a bailout. Now, here's some people who are already pushing back. In Las Vegas, the hotels that have been demanded by government there to shut down, the hotels and casinos are pushing back against these illegal unconstitutional shutdown orders, and they're going to be suing. They're going to be suing government on the basis of the Constitution, that it is not constitutional to issue these shutdown orders. Now, I understand. Let's talk about this very clearly. Good to see you, Janice. Sharon, good to see you. Yeah, definitely. Who is behind all this? And she's not asking a question. The World Health Organization. And frankly, we're having that mimicked now by the CDC. At the first few days, they were just saying something different, but nowadays it's all lockstep. It's all lockstep. So, what we are seeing, what we continue to see across the country, are a variation. The blue states are the states that are actually pushing for these shutdowns. The red states are slowly being forced. And we have a small window of time, you guys, to buoy our red states that are not engaging in the shutdown, which would certainly do a great deal to rescue their personal economies. Each and every state, of course, that's one of the great things about this country. We are a federalist nation. We have 50 different state experiments. And in that way, in many ways, 50 different state economies, but also very much local economies. And so the less your bars are shut down, the less your stores are shut down, the less your schools are shut down, the sooner we get everybody back to work, the less impact we are going to see on the economy. Now, let's talk a little bit about why they want to do the shutdown. And I understand this is where everybody gets mad at me because me and the president do not agree on flattening the curve. And I think that's because he's being told the CDC crazy statements like 2.2 million dead. Well, if you watch Monday's show and you listen to what we're talking about, what's actually happening, we're not having 2.2 million people dead. We're having a 0.2 0.2, a fifth of 1% increase in the number of pneumonia deaths in the United States. 50,000 people a year die of pneumonia in the United States. This disease, COVID-19, which is the name of the disease caused by the virus, okay, which was in Wuhan was the SARS-CoV-2 virus. I'm not sure what it is here because we are not yet able to test. And the test that they want to use, the test that they are using, does produce false positives. It does produce false positives. There have been individuals that I have been told about, can't verify, didn't see it myself, where the test was negative with the World Health Organization test, and then the CDC had a test and it was positive. So we're getting mixed results. We're getting mixed results on the test. So there is no way to know the cases. And my little panicking Pams here, like Chris Pex, who want to spread lies and devastation, want to continue to fearmonger so that they can break down the American economy. It's an entire plot. That's why the trolls are the ones all saying. The whole goal is to bring down the American economy by getting us to shut everything down. In order to do that, they have to tell us that this disease is very, 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 very dangerous. And they have to continue to misrepresent the actual pieces of information. So for those of you who have gathered those actual pieces of information, who are asking questions, there are other folks in the government, Senator Blackburn, for example, other journalists, etc., who are pushing back, who are saying, we want to know the evidence. Where is the evidence that merits this much economic devastation? And shutdowns? Where is the evidence? I need to see valid scientific evidence. I don't need a bunch of fear mongers to come out and tell me what we're going to do and how much money we're going to spend and how many checks we're going to throw at everybody. We need actual scientists, not Chinese science. I don't know why we would take Chinese science and listen to that and use that as our reason, nor do I know why we would in any way, shape, or form, try to compare Italy's socialized medical system with an extremely aging population to our own younger population and vastly greater medical facilities. Vastly greater. See, the reality of the situation is, and a lot of the people who talk about we don't have enough resources at the hospital, they're talking about beds. They're talking about, well, we have enough beds for the people who generally use the hospital every single day. But we don't have extra beds in case there's a run on the hospital. Well, of course not. That's actually an economically irrational thing to have. It's not rational to expect a hospital to have a massive amount more beds than what they would need on a regular basis. So they have empty beds sitting there, but that's just in case, there's a nuclear attack or crazy pandemic or zombie apocalypse. These fear-mongering tactics that intend to get us to spend money, spend capital, invest our children's futures on preparation for the end of the world, basically, have been used. This idea has been used since the dawn of time to trick people into giving up their liberty, their freedom, and their hard-earned capital. So, this panicking idea, this panicking, let's shut down everything, this panicking, it all comes from this idea of flattening the curve. The idea being, I'm going to pull this up. The idea being that if we spread out the disease, okay, instead of having a peak of disease really quick, which will overwhelm the hospitals, which we have no evidence of saying that. They're basing that on beds. We're going to talk about that in a second. Peak. We spread it out over time, making the disease last longer for everybody, making the economic distress last longer for everybody. And that way we lower, it's still the same number. Look, we're not lowering the number of people. I want you guys to be very clear. By staying in your homes, by hiding from the world, by closing down the restaurants, you are not reducing the number of people who get the virus. Do you understand what I'm saying? You are not reducing the overall number of people. Look at the chart. Okay? There are not less people who get the virus if we stay in. There the same amount of people, but they get it over a longer period of time. They're not trying to reduce the number of people who get the virus. They are trying to reduce the number of people at any given time who have the virus. That is what flattening the curve. Instead of a strong peak that overwhelms the hospital, it's what they say in the chart. I love the folks who say you're dumb, but it says it right on the chart. Like, that is the chart. That is literally what the chart is saying. Instead of this peak that exceeds hospital capacity, that's what that line is right there. We spread them out. It doesn't get the peak and it stays below hospital capacity, usually meaning beds. Now, the vast majority of people who come down with this disease do not need a hospital bed. They need to be treated. They need some monitoring. Some people are going to develop severe pneumonia and they might need monitoring. They might need a hospital bed. But certainly the number of people we have seen in the hospitals right now are people who have the sniffles, who do not have this disease, who have no reason to be there and are flooding our hospitals and causing a great amount of chaos in the system, overwhelming the system right now without the disease, without this so-called pandemic that everybody has caught this disease and we all need to run in fear. So what's causing the pandemic right now is a panic-demic. It's not a pandemic. It's a panic-demic of people who think they're going to die. They've gone to the hospital. They're now flooded the hospital. Nurses everywhere are saying this. Nurses everywhere. Now, we're gonna talk to one of our little trolls. We're gonna talk to one of our trolls who says, Crispic says, social distancing is the 101 lesson in a pandemic situation. No, sir. Guess what? It's not. That's some stuff you all made up this year. Okay? This idea of social distancing for a pandemic is not how we have ever handled pandemics in the past. And the main reason is that it doesn't work. It doesn't produce less result. It does not produce less infected people. It extends the time, because once I have decided to stay in the house, I now infect the people in the family. The disease passes around. By the time I come back out, we infect more people. This is why flu exists still everywhere every year. This is why colds still exist everywhere every year. And even though if you go and stay home, still another one goes around. This is human nature. In fact, it's a very interesting thing that I like to teach you. Let's teach a little history. In the Revolutionary War, in the founding of this country, we had more soldiers lost to disease, more U.S. soldiers, U.S. Revolutionary soldiers lost to disease than we did to battle. And in fact, we had a huge problem with smallpox. Smallpox was a devastating disease at the time, killed 30 to 50% of the people that contracted the disease, even with quarantine measures. George Washington was having a huge problem. The British were using smallpox, intentionally having infecting different areas in ways that they could, blankets, etc. They had ways. We all know how smallpox was used as a weapon in the early foundation of this country, and also Native Americans as well, against Native Americans as well. So we know that as a fact. We also know how devastating smallpox actually was. Well, George Washington felt that he did not want to continue to lose troops to smallpox because the British wanted to use it as a weapon. So instead of quarantining everybody, because he discovered it wasn't working, he chose a different path called inoculation. He exposed everyone to the smallpox, and then they were kept in observation for a 3 to 4 week period as they processed through the disease, developing antibodies, developing a self-immunity. This inoculated all of our soldiers against the deadly smallpox, which allowed us to defeat the British rather than die from a smallpox epidemic. Yes, Denise, this is exactly true. When we were kids, chickenpox. Our parents threw us together to make us all get chickenpox and get it over with. Yes, because you build an immunity. Jason says, I was listening to a guy who recovered, said his wife never caught it. Yes, because you build an immunity. That is what the human body does. We have a miraculous system. God has given us a beautiful system of immunity as we are exposed to outside agents like a virus, our body, even through minimal exposure, can begin immediately to isolate that pathogen, recognize it. The more the body recognizes it, the more the body will quickly attack it and destroy it and send it through the system without it causing you harm. And this is why each viral outbreak has a lifespan and then shuts down, because eventually the immune system, the community, even all of the immune systems begin to develop immunity. So we're not getting anywhere with quarantining. I want to say that, I find it frustrating that I have to say that, because the reality of the situation is we're not getting anywhere. We're shutting down the country. And even if it takes 2 weeks, you all know as well as I do, some of these things, one, they can never be started back up because they were annual events. You have to wait till next year. People have lost a year's worth of income, and that's just what you're going to have to accept, and that's going to take many years to recover. Facts. But this idea that if we don't shut down for 2 weeks, we have to get started getting ramped back up right now. We've got to get, I've had many people tell me, wait 2 weeks and see what happens. Well, in 2 weeks, there are going to be people who are so broke, they're so desperate, that can't get resources. There will be civil unrest. And then all these panicking stories about them mobilizing the National Guard and calling martial law are going to be real. What we need to do before then is start pushing back. And so what I'm encouraging all of my viewers to do is to do exactly what I have done. I've written the White House, okay? I've written a letter to the president talking about the shutdowns, telling him that I do not think the shutdowns are a good idea, that we need to take different action, which includes quickly reopening schools, only disinfecting schools that are actually closed, that are actually have exposure, actual cases. This quarantine everywhere is ridiculous and dangerous to the economy. It is also unconstitutional. So in addition to writing letters, to calling people, pushing back, call businesses. If you see a business that's still open in defiance of these orders, go give them your business. Go give them your business. Tip the waitress a little heavier. Look, these wait staff, they are not getting as much business anywhere. Every wait staff is getting less business. So tip a little extra. Please be a little extra kind when you are out in public. Let me just say, folks, 100%. When you go out and get these curbside deliveries, because they have many restaurants that are shut down for indoor dining, don't just tip. Don't just get it and pay the taxes on, it's takeout. I don't have to get a tip. Okay. I know that's what you would do normally, but the workers who are there, the staff who are there, who are used to making tips and used to making a living, they're there now scraping a living back and forth, delivering bags from the kitchen to the car. And they got to do twice as much work to pack that all up for you. So please, even if you are getting curbside pickup, tip your person. They need it. They are being they're being ripped over the coals. Yeah, actually, Audra says this. I got chickenpox twice, actually. I got chickenpox when I personally had chickenpox twice. One, because I only got a little case. I got 7 pox on me. And then that was not enough to build up the antibodies. And I got it again. Then I got a lot of pox. Then I was very poxy. But then I got better. And now I don't get chickenpox anymore. And so far, so good on the shingles as well. So, James, I appreciate what you want to say. As a respiratory therapist, you are wrong. We are trying to avoid the amount of sick people. You're not doing that. You're not doing that, to be honest. You're failing to do that, and you're going to continue to fail to do that. Let me tell you how you're failing to do that. For example, here in Washington, D.C., we have closed down all the schools under an abundance of caution to prevent the children from exposing each other. They don't have any food. Okay, so they're also going to school. They said, no, we don't go to school. We've closed the schools. But what we're going to do is we're going to open up some of the schools as food centers. So now, instead of putting 300 kids in the classroom and in the lunchroom as normal, allowing parents to continue to go to work, what we're actually doing is putting 800 kids in a lunchroom. So tell me again, exactly how does social distancing work if we're putting more kids back into the classroom and into the lunchroom together? How does that actually work again? We're closing the schools, but we're actually crowding the kids more into a single area. I'm actually going to wait for our little buddy here, James Vale, who says I am a dangerous person by telling you the truth about these things, to explain that to me. How, Mr. Vale, when you have, what you're saying is we can't have any kids around each other, and then you got 800 kids in a room waiting for lunch. Okay, how is it that it's total? We shouldn't be in a bar or a restaurant because we might sit too close and cough on each other. But we do want to all go stand in line. We do want to all go stand in line at the grocery store to stock up on emergency supplies, where you see crowds of people standing in the grocery store. So, yeah, thank you, Grace. Thank you. So, yeah. This is the questions they can't actually answer. They can't answer why they're doing this. They have not given you adequate proof. They continue to tout ridiculous statistics. They do not ever show you. Have you seen any of the people that have died? Do you have a list? Because they made a list. I read an article today that said, oh, it's a whole list of everyone who's died in the United States. And I'm like, okay, well, and with details on them. Details. Like, ooh, this is going to be exciting. You're going to be able to know the age, where they're from. On the list were about 20 items, 20 or more. That's when I got bored. I realized this list was dumb. I was going to stop reading it. So about 30, 20 of the list items were a person in California, a person in Seattle. What age? Who? Where? What part of Seattle? No information. They continue to provide you absolutely zero information. And frankly, that's down from the CDC. But more importantly, because we do not have the federal government has not yet issued shutdown orders. These are local orders issued by local individuals, yet some of them at the guidance of the CDC, some of them entirely of the whim of the local government, the local governor, the local mayor. And at the resistance to the chagrin, to the annoyance, to the frustration of other local politicians who have pushed back on this ridiculous idea of social distancing that is not a functional method to reduce pandemic. It merely spreads out the disease contraction over time. And it will, in fact, destroy and is destroying the U.S. economy. Now, I love you guys, and I'm gonna do everything I can to help elect Trump, and I will continue to do that at all times. But here's the reality of the situation. If Trump isn't saying that, that's fine. I'm going to be saying that. I know we need to turn the economy back on. I know we need to get people back to work. I know that these ridiculous quarantine orders, which aren't quarantine orders, is a slow panic rollout, that we need to, that the panic rollout, the panic is what's causing it. Rita, I'm going to put this up. This is what parents were panicking, demanding schools be closed here. Yes, the panic is what's caused it. The school didn't need to be closed. Not a single school that hasn't had a case has any reason logistically to be closed whatsoever. Whatsoever. It literally makes it worse. Now we have kids at home being babysat by grandma. You're like, oh, we can't have the kids go to school and get the germs, and they bring them home to grandma. Well, so you had them at school. They already got the germs, and then they came home to grandma, and now they're sitting in grandma. Here's what if, you guys, since 50,000 people a year die of pneumonia already, what if we try to save grandma from COVID-19, but now all the kids are home giving her flu, cold, all the other germs of the year. Grandma gets pneumonia and dies anyway. Have we saved grandma at all? I think in the long run, we're going to find that this method, this ridiculous, un-American, unconstitutional, anti-economic method of self-distancing, social distancing, the most insane thing I've ever heard in my life, will in fact prove to be far more deadly than COVID-19 itself. The process we've had, we have elderly people, you guys, we have elderly people who are literally on their they're in their last stages of life right now, not because of the virus, because they're old. But you know what? Because we have hospitals shut down, we have nursing homes shut down in a panic, not over rational precautionary methods. Because here's what they just take your temperature. You could be carrying the virus and not have yet developed a temperature. That's entirely a possibility. So this isn't a measurement that actually is going to stop any virus from getting in. Take extra precaution. You could just do the same, put a mask on everybody and wash their hands, and you can still go see your loved one. But loved ones are going to die alone. Loved ones are going to die alone from their families because of this shutdown. Babies are going to be born and their grandmothers, the moms aren't going to be able to be with their daughters having the children. The husbands aren't going to be able to be there. We have such a ridiculous medical shutdown right now, and it's affecting real people's lives in ways that will be permanently affected. And it's not producing the result we have. And certainly, if it is, look, I would love to be wrong. Let's just say to all the people who say, oh, Suzzanne, what are you talking about? We have to do exactly what the government says. We have to do the shutdown. We can't tell them we don't want to shut stuff down. They're only shutting stuff down for our own good. You know, I find it funny. If y'all believe that, I got some, beachfront property to sell you in Nebraska. There, you should love it. You'll love it. It's beautiful beachfront property right there in the middle of Nebraska. So, Nebraska. So, yeah. The reality, what we have to do is request that information. Look, I wouldn't love to be wrong. It'd be horrible if I were wrong, because that way, then these horrible things that they've been predicting to us would be happening. But I would love to at least see that. If we can see that evidence, if the government can show us specifically clear-cut, verifiable evidence, which we have not seen. We've heard numbers thrown out of our, we have seen no direct evidence of deaths in the United States that merit the full destruction of this economy. And we haven't seen it anywhere else either. The Italy numbers are not a rational explanation for how this will affect our hospital system. They're just not. They're not whatsoever. So what we need to do is continue to thank the people who are pushing back. We need to appreciate the people who are staying open. Go to those bars, go to those restaurants, pay and tip a little bit extra to those individuals who are continuing to stay into business. Okay, that's so important. Secondarily, call and fight back with every legislature, lawmaker that you can. I've called the White House. I've called several congressmen and senators and said, look, this shutdown is what's the real problem. And without evidence, without sound scientific demonstrable evidence that we need this shutdown, this is exactly what's going to, not somebody's theory that this is going to work, not somebody like, oh, well, we had thought it would be a good plan if we shut down the whole economy and made everybody stay 20 feet away from each other. Not some MIT or Ivy League poofy shirt guy who came up with some idea that's never been tried. None of that is a valid reason to impose this kind of economic devastation on the United States people. None of it. So call your leaders, demand an end to the shutdown, and demand that they provide us the evidence, the reasoning for the shutdown in sensible language, not in a bunch of hyperlatives and hyperbole. Isn't it going to be so great? We're going to help everybody. Everything's going to get fine. This, that, and the other thing. So that's not, I need you to go, look, this is the science. This is the science. I agree, Marita. They're looking at Italy and freaking out. But this is the thing. Italy, let's put this up real quick. Italy is not the same medical system as us. And that's why I'm demanding from our politicians that they get the information. How's it going, Helen? That they provide us the valid information. The valid information. And Chris is exactly the reason. I'm going to pull Chris up right here. This is exactly the reason I want the valid information given to us clearly. If what they are using is Italy numbers and they're saying, well, we are seeing this in Italy, and these are the specific numbers in Italy, and this is exactly what we're seeing in Italy, and this is why we are going to do what we're doing because we see this in Italy, then we have a chance to do this. Italy is a special case because they imported 1,000 Chinese to work in the cheap garment industry. Now we can actually discuss and engage their crazy theory. We can now say, well, hey, yeah, Italy, but didn't they have like all these extra, weren't there other factors? Didn't they have a really high elderly population? Isn't their medicine socialized? Didn't they have a high level of Chinese garment workers in their community where the outbreak occurred, who had recently been in China? Right? We can then speak back and say, well, your evidence doesn't match up with what we actually know. And we can demand accountability. This is so important. We can demand accountability from our government. If our government is not giving us information on the state level, on the federal level, on the local level, whatever level, if the government is not providing us adequate information as to why we should be allowing all of these shutdowns, we need to demand that they give us that information. Because what's the reality? Jason, this is a reality. You're totally right. Less than 0% of each population has died. We're looking at a 0.2 increase, 0.2%, 1/5 of 1% increase in the number of pneumonia deaths this year in the United States. 50,000 people every year die of pneumonia. 50,000. Do we shut down schools? No. How do you get pneumonia? From viral conditions, from the cold, from viral flu conditions. Then it develops into fluid in the lungs, pneumonia being a condition as well. It develops into fluid in the lungs. Compromised people who have compromised immune systems or lung health, right, are more likely to get pneumonia. These are the 50,000 people that die in America every year of pneumonia. 50,000. At 100 deaths, you're looking at 0.2. Yeah, I'm allergic to stupid. That's why I did that. At 100 deaths, you're looking at 0.2% increase in pneumonia deaths in the United States. That's not worth shutting down the economy for. And that, by demanding we get that information directly, it gives us an opportunity to talk truth and logic to power once again and start to get our economy open. We're going to need to start doing the groundwork to demand our economy get back open, because in a few weeks, if they say, oh, in 2 weeks, we're going to get everything open again, but in reality, it doesn't get open and they start pushing back a little more and pushing back a little more, they are going to they're going to push back. They're going to keep doing it, and they're going to do it again. And that's the other thing. We're going to need to continue to legislatively push back on this. Once this crisis is ended, we need lawmakers that are willing to write bills that prevent governors, prevent mayors, prevent states from shutting down commerce without some obvious public reasoning. And we have not seen that across the country. We need to make sure that never again. How many times in my life have I had to say never again? So many times. So many times I keep having to say never again. Never again will we allow them to rip the Constitution out of our hands for the fear over a virus. For the fear over a virus. It's so scary what we are experiencing for our country. And it's our job, if we support the president, how's it going, Wolfman? If we support the president, we need to help him get the economy roaring again. We need to help him get the economy turned back on. The quicker we mitigate the economic devastation that has been caused by this panic, the sooner our president will be able to get back to campaigning, we'll get back to rallying, okay? And we're going to need to give him that cover. Even if he's not aware of it right now, sometimes when you have sometimes you have a husband, for my lady friends who have a husband, sometimes your husband, he doesn't know what he should be doing. He's doing the wrong thing for himself sometimes. He doesn't know he should be wearing the wrong shirt. It's like putting on this shirt with the stain on it. It's your job as a wife to go, you know what, honey, would look better as that other shirt. And then he puts on the good shirt, right? That's kind of what we're doing here with our president. That's kind of what we need to do. We, the American people, need to say, no, we want to put ourselves back to work. We want to put the work shirt back on. Honey, can you put the work shirt back on? And Trump will see us all getting back to work, demanding getting back to work, demanding we want that economy going, seeing the success, so important, seeing the success where the economy has been roared back to life, and he will be able to reach out and grab onto that success and say, look what's happening. We've gotten through this disease and we're already getting the economy roaring back. Everybody's getting their jobs back. The economy, we need to give him that talking point. The only way we do that is some of us stand up right now and push back against this ridiculous idea that if we all go lock ourselves in our homes and shut down the economy for the next 2 weeks, that we somehow will be able to that we're somehow doing ourselves any good. We're not. And it's okay for us to be in a different part of the curve. President Trump is in a very difficult situation. I've heard this argument many times. It's in a very difficult situation because if he does very little, the Democrats will blame him for not caring about people and not caring about possible illness. And every death, they're going to talk about it over and over. If he does a great deal, it's going to crush the economy. And frankly, that's, I think, where we're at. He's been convinced to do a little too much. He's been convinced to overreact, do a little too much. And really, not even so much that the federal government is doing. A lot of it is just agreeing with what some of the states are doing. And that's unfortunate. And that's been giving us a little bit of difficulty. So he's stuck between those two things. And he had Mitt Romney come to him and say, we should do $1,000 for each person. He's being really operated and pressured with this idea. And he wants to help people. And he certainly wants the American people to recover from this situation. It's our job to let him know that the reality, how we recover from this situation, is to put us all back to work. And to keep the economy going as we have through every other situation, every other outbreak, every other disease we have ever seen in all of the history of the United States. We have continued to work. We have continued to keep our country going. And yes, Wolfman, you're entirely, I'm going to put this up. Our libtard governor here in Colorado was single-handedly trying to ruin our economy. Yes, all of the blue states, a lot of the Democrat governors are doing the same thing. They're doing the shutdowns. They're doing the bans. They're banning alcohol. They're banning gun sales. They're closing the casinos. What's funny? They tell you that alcohol actually kills the virus, and then, of course, government immediately stops, bans alcohol sales. I'm just saying. That doesn't make any sense. But what Wolfman is saying, a lot of these blue state liberal governors, mayors, etc., like Muriel Bowser here in D.C., they're Democrats dyed in the wool. They are pushing these shutdowns. We can push back against them, you guys, and say, no, we don't think that's right. And that doesn't get in the way of the president. That literally gets in the way of the people who are hurting our economy. So write those guys. Talk to those guys. Email those guys. Say, we don't like it. We don't want the shutdown. We don't think it's working. We have 2 cases here. It's stupid. We're not all shutting down the whole economy to destroy because you guys want to panic over 3 people. We have no reason to panic. Send a little extra money to the hospitals, get them prepared, and let's all go on with our lives. Jason, I agree. I'm going to say this right here. I feel these doctors have hijacked his administration. The media dwells on the coulds and ifs. 100%. That is one of the things I personally have been saying. People get a little frustrated with me. I believe the CDC, I believe Dr. Anthony Fauci, amongst others, are giving the president very panic-stricken could and if information and not on the practical sense, like we're hearing from Dr. Carson, Dr. Ben Carson, Dr. Drew, Dr. Oz, other celebrity doctors like that. Certainly a lot of medical professionals around the country also saying the exact same thing, MIT biologists, one of our great candidates running for office. So we need to demand that real information so that we can actually have those conversations. Do that from your local government first. We can help Trump get the economy going by directing our attention. This is where I'm going to be directing my attention at our local government who is doing the shutdown. For example, Sydney, Dan Whitmer from Michigan. Yes. Find the guy who's doing the problem, hammer that guy, and then find the other politicians that are hammering that guy with them and go help them. And when you're done with that, when you're done telling your lawmakers what you want, which you want an end to the shutdown, and you want real, sound, scientific evidence as to why we are shutting everything down, what validates this extreme action, start getting your local economies turned back on. Start getting your local schools open back up. And the only way you're going to do that is if we start speaking out. Just like we saw earlier, a lot of the schools got closed because people were petitioning in panic. Do the opposite. Petition and not panic. Petition and get my kids out of my house and back to school. Petition that. Because this certainly is what we need to do. By doing this on a local level, in a few weeks, as we, the American people, It's not just all Trump's job, you guys. We can't just sit here and wait for our checks. It's so stupid. I don't even understand people who want to take a check. To be honest, I, as a conservative, never want to take money from your kids for a quick bailout today. I don't believe in bailouts. I didn't believe in bailouts when George Bush did it or Obama did it. I've never done that. I've never been for bailing out. I've never been for these adding to the deficit and paying interest and many times the amount of the original bailout because we want to throw money at things. You want to throw money at things. So, yeah, Wolfman, exactly what I was saying. He's damned if he does, and he's damned if he doesn't. And I agree. So let's work on our local governments. Work on our local guys. We can get the stuff open again. That's where our focus needs to be. Our focus in the American people, the Trump train, our focus needs to be on getting the country back open again. Helping President Trump have an economy that is already getting started by the time the disease arc of panic goes through. Okay. As long as he's got the Fauci and the others whispering in his ear, he's going to keep saying, well, 2 weeks, we got to do 2 weeks. But by the end of those 2 weeks, we need to be ready with the economy going, Mr. Trump, we're back at work already. We're desperate to get back to work. We need these shutdowns to end. And you promised us we'd get back to work, and we're ready. And look, we've already gotten this much accomplished. We've already pushed back against these governors who have used executive orders to shut down our businesses. We were already getting our employees back to health. Yes, Helen, it's 100%. We have, it is time. It is time to start to push back against the shutdowns. It is time to demand adequate evidence. There's nothing wrong with that. None of that harms the president. Being a responsible citizen and demanding that your government give you adequate evidence for what they're doing, none of that's going to harm your president, you guys. You should do it. We all need to ask for adequate evidence and push back on that because we know the evidence that they have is not adequate to describe ripping this Constitution and burning it alive and destroying all of our lives. So that we can push back. Well, okay, why ask good questions? Why is there a curfew? Okay, if we can go out and go to the bar until 5 o'clock, but after 5 o'clock, does the virus only go out at night? Is it a vampire virus? Can we find tiny little virus stakes and run it through little virus hearts, find its little virus coffins and the little virus piles of dirt that they put in some, in the house? Is it a vampire virus? Why does being out at 5:05 make you more likely to get than at 4:55? Why does 10 people in a group okay, but 11 people in a group, y'all going to die of the virus? Yeah, this is what I'm saying. This is where we're at everywhere, and for what reason? Restaurants and bars are all completely shut down here. Only drive-through and takeout allowed. So here's the reality. Now I'm sitting in my car. I'm burning gas. All right. I'm wasting more paper and more products to pack all that stuff up. I'm not. Please, if you are taking takeout, please tip that person. They're losing a lot of money. That doesn't put the waitress back to work. 100%. So that doesn't make sense. But get that restaurant back open. And people who are resisting that, go to that restaurant. Serve them. Being in public is an act of civil disobedience right now. Loretta, this is such an important question. Why shut down schools but not daycares? Does that make any sense to you at all? The shutdown is not logical. And our politicians should be answering these questions. Our politicians need to be answering these questions. Why are we doing this but not doing this? Why are you threatening churches to close? To be real, I have every right as a citizen to go out and expose myself to whatever it is in the world if I want to. And I have a right to gather together. And other people have also the right to make that decision. So when they tell you, well, you might expose somebody, well, listen, then why close churches? Send out a notice. Heck, make me sign a piece of paper when I come to church that says I'm coming to church. I know full well that I could get the virus, that everybody else could get the virus. All of us agree that we come into the church, we're going to sing some hymns, we might get the virus. That's our prerogative. All right. We might take it home to our families. That's our prerogative. But we're going to do it in this private group called our church. And everyone who's come here has agreed to the same thing. It's ridiculous that the government is making those decisions for us. The government is making the decisions for us. Rita, I will in fact put out some talking points, some specific talking points that we should be calling and asking our politicians. Specific, why have they shut us down? Where is the evidence that validates that? Why are there arbitrary times, etc.? How long do they plan these shutdowns? And what legal grounds do they have to do those things? So that we can hold them accountable to that. They say, well, we're going to do it for 15 days. Well, great. Then on day 16, we, the people, are going to be able to scream and shout and redress our grievances and demand an end to the shutdown, right? We need to hold our, and this is so, Barbara, this is 100%. This is 100%. If I can go to Kroger's, I can go to church. That's correct. That is exactly the kind of questions we need to be asking our officials. And you should be calling Pastor Greg Locke and thanking him, because it is an act of civil disobedience. It is an act of patriotism. It is an act of liberty. It is a revolutionary act of liberty that the founders smile greatly upon, to stay open, to hold your church open during this shutdown. That's America right there. That's America. I'm very proud of that. We're going to keep talking about this. I'm going to keep giving folks talking points. We're going to stay positive. We're going to get through this, but we have to start engaging our government. We have to start ending the shutdown. We have to support our president. We have to demand accountability. Yes, Wolfbat, I attempted to call that venue and thank them for staying open. Kid Rock has a venue that is staying open in defiance of the governor. I believe they're in Tennessee. Their order. I didn't get through to them because I called at the wrong time. But any business that's staying open in defiance of an order, please give them your business. Please support them. Please continue to support one another. Make sure your friends and family are okay. If you have someone who has worked in the service industry, or someone who does a lot of conventions, there's a lot of annual activities, check in on your neighbors. There are people who you won't know who are going to be economically affected by this, and they're very proud. They don't want to let you know that they're actually really struggling, but in fact they are. So ask your neighbors if they're still working. Talk to people. Call family members. Make sure that your people are okay, and help out with you can. I had a friend of mine, I'm struggling here, but I've had some wonderful friends who have been able to help me out. And I had a friend of mine in Cleveland who was like, look, I had an extra $100 today. I'd love to give it to you anywhere near Cleveland. And I said, no, I'm not. But find a waitress, find a bartender, find a service person, somebody who works in the food service industry. Give them the tip. Give them that $100, because that's going to mean the world to them. It's going to mean the world to them. So please pay it forward. This is exactly what I'm talking about, Marita. This is exactly what they didn't shut down the hotels when we have Legionnaire's disease. Will they shut down the mosques? These are all a great question. These are the questions we need to be asking. What we need to be pushing back against these blue states, because it's these blue states that are helping run this operation on our president. And they're certainly trying to undermine our mission to make America great again. And what we need to do, so important, get this country back to work and get back to reelecting President Donald J. Trump in November. That's our show for today, folks. Love you guys. I will be back again on Friday, right here, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Until then, this is your girl, Suzzanne Monk, as always. Jumping out.